Episode 3, El Segundo podcast. We heard your complaints. We fixed the audio. Turned out our Zoom recorder, although we had the microphones plugged in, it was recording through the Zoom recorder inbuilt microphone. So it wasn't the cameras for all you assholes telling us it was the camera microphones. We cut that out. We still couldn't figure it out. Well, obviously, it was Freddy. Freddy couldn't figure that out. I wouldn't know how to use any of that stuff. First two podcasts were filmed on the road. These next two podcasts will be filmed on the road too. Obviously, there's some hurdles to tackle when you're on the road. Again, we're in Portland for Chael. We're in LA for Josh Barnett. Shitty audio. We did the best we could with the Barnett one. Episode 3, Jack Della. I came to Perth from Thailand. I was in Perth to begin the Sambo is Fake seminar tour with Street X. We rented a studio. We filmed it in a studio. So it's going to sound significantly better than those first two episodes. But I was worried about fixing the audio because most of the time you guys complain about the audio. If there's no audio to complain about, you're just going to be complaining about us. But again, yeah, we fixed the audio. You notice the audio improves as Freddy disappears. I don't know if there's a strong correlation between those two things. Jack Della, a lot of hardcore MMA fans already know who this guy is. I think most people will soon become aware of who he is, given 4 first-round finishes in the UFC. I think 3 knockouts, 1 submission. He lost his first 2 fights, and he's in the midst of a 14-fight win streak. And again, only one of those wins was a decision. That was on the Contender Series. So, I mean, his record speaks for itself. He's a pretty quiet guy, but we tried to get everything we could out of him. You'll notice we talk about Sean Brady, the fight that's just got announced. When we spoke about this, we didn't know if we were going to be able to talk about this on the podcast because, obviously, from signing to official announcement, sometimes that can take a while, and the fighters are meant to release who they're matched up against. So, yeah, luckily, this podcast, we're able to talk deeply about his opponent. You'll see I've actually grappled with Sean Brady previously. I got to train with Della in Perth, so I wasn't just out there to do a podcast, got to do some training. Obviously, his boxing, his hands are amazing, but I was very, very impressed with his grappling. So I hope you enjoy this podcast.
You are now listening to the El Segundo podcast with...
Who? Craig Jones. Who? Craig Jones.
And having that guy around is the best thing that ever happened for the squad.
Street X B team. When one collection isn't enough. Me, Roger, Galvao, Rafa Menendez, we are on another stratosphere. When you think of Silva, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Me. I'm just like you, but higher on the podium. Sometimes I think about competing again, but why does Street X ask me to push products? Because I'm the only grappler with absolutely zero self-respect. I'm Australian when you need me to be, and I'm Mexican-American when you need me to be. When coming second has never looked this good. Street X, V-Team. Guys, we're here, episode 3 of the El Segundo podcast. We've fired Freddy, my former co-host who messed up the audio. We've updated the audio this time. We're doing it right. We got Dan Bradshaw from Street X and Jack Della Maddalena. 4 first-round UFC finishes in a row. We were trying to work out the record. Who's got those consecutive finishes in a row? And I think, what did we work it out? It's the Russian dude.
Pavlovich,
yeah.
He's lost one though, right?
Yeah, hasn't done it from a debut either.
Consecutive from debut.
Yeah. What is the longest? Is that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's better to just claim it.
Yeah.
And if you're wrong, everyone will be sure to tell you.
That's it. Yeah, I'll claim that for sure. Hopefully make it 5 real soon.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it. It's not announced yet, and if you guys hear this, it means it's probably been announced after we recorded this and we're safe to announce it on here. But you're actually going to take some personal revenge for me against Sean Brady.
Yeah, I'm going to bring one home for the Aussies too. Yeah, this time I'm allowed to strike, so hopefully put a beat down on him.
Yeah, please give him one for me. I remember I had a grappling match against him, right? And it was Fury. It was in his hometown, and it was a Fight Pass event. And we had a match when nothing happened. Like, I pulled guard, he was on top. And his corner was kind of yelling out the whole time, like, hey, sort of clear grips, disengage. So I'm just being a lazy bastard. And I'm like,
well, if his corner's yelling that out, the judges are going to hear that. Surely I'm winning, and eventually he might make a strong attempt. But then it went to the decision, and they gave it to him. And his coach at the time, I remember I go on Instagram the next day, and obviously a lot of people, especially happens in MMA too, right? A lot of people see a result, but they don't watch it. So I wake up, and it's just all this Sean Brady beats Craig Jones, and his coach at the time sponsored a bunch of Instagram ads with him getting his hand raised against me, and I was like, oh, fucking great way to bring in the new year.
Yeah, it's pretty, I guess that would have been his game plan, hey? Just go in, stall it out, and try and get the victory from making nothing happen.
Yeah, I just have terrible ability to think on the fly out there. Like, I should have just thought, hey, like, it's an MMA grappling event. If it goes to the judges, they're probably going to give it to the hometown guy. But yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, I didn't really get to film much with him. I wanted to go back and train with him, try to take some personal revenge off the cameras and really feel what it would be like if we scrambled a bit more. Yeah. But obviously, we've been training the last couple of days, so I'm real excited to see how this one goes.
Yeah, I'm excited. He's got, obviously, from an MMA perspective, he's got a strong sort of top game. But I reckon I can, honestly, I think I would do all right in the scrambling and be able to get back to the feet. And I think I'm miles in front of him on the feet, to be honest. So, see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, given all the striking finishes you had your whole career, it's going to be pretty. I don't know anyone in welterweight is going to be able to stand and trade.
Thank you. I'm going to give it, hopefully, it's just the working on the grappling a lot, because I think, I don't think the striking's very good. Obviously, Leon Edwards is high level, but I think the top 10 outside Leon Edwards aren't very high level strikers, in my opinion.
Who do you think's the best grappler? Like pure submissions, you reckon Gilbert Burns, someone like that?
I think, pure submissions, I think definitely Gilbert Burns. I would say, I believe so. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is pretty good with submissions, but pure submission perspective, I think, Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, true. I guess all-round grappling, because Usman and stuff are really dangerous wrestlers, but probably don't have the ability to finish with submissions on the ground. Shavkat's kind of an unknown. He still trains out in Kazakhstan, I believe, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think so. He's a lot more aggressive with the grappling. Where the Kamaru Usman and stuff are, I think, better at like stalling the fight, like holding people down and landing shots and sort of just gaining the rounds on you.
Who do you think would have the best Walls of Jericho in the welterweight division?
I don't know. What do you reckon, Mr. Della?
I like Craig's yesterday. It was pretty smooth. I've never seen that one before in person.
Maybe me and Freddy have to have a death match for who gets the co-host spot.
We've got to see who's got the weakest spine amongst you. Fuck, that was funny. Yeah, I'm really excited for that footage to be released. I thought you might have tried to erase it, say there was some technical difficulties or something.
Nah, mate. Any publicity is good publicity, boys.
I only saw the finish. I want to see how it eventuated,
I feel like the only way to do it is you concede mounts, and I go 2 hands in the armpits, and then I put my feet in the armpits, and I push them forward, because then their reaction is to try to sit back on top of you. And if I can poke my head out, they're giving you that spine reaction. But I mean, it's crazy. So a fake, I like to try to test out the WWE moves, but I think that one's, if you get it, it's hard. I don't know how you get out of it. Did it feel like there was many?
Oh, no, I didn't get out of it. So, I don't think there was any ways I could have got out of it.
Can you get the right, can you get pressure on it?
So man, it's fun. Like a lower back, it implodes up.
I guess it must have come from somewhere, I guess if you can get into that position, it works. It
comes out all the time. It was a Boston Crab. I don't know the backstory behind that name, but then, Wolves of Jericho. I think a ton of wrestlers use.
Yeah, and then, what's his name? Bret Hart had like a hybrid version of it, and then Sting also had one. But I know Chris Jericho used to just pretty much step over and just pull the legs up. There was not really much depth to the setup.
Technique,
I am awaiting like a lawsuit because I don't know, you guys saw the news recently with the $46 million case in America.
Yep.
Did you see that with the guy? He went for Sinistro went for a rolling back take on one of his students, and the student kind of turned the wrong way and broke his neck.
Have you not seen the video?
No.
Oh,
haven't even
it's
heard
making me
of this.
clammy. Just
You know when you go a seatbelt from Turtle and they were like, Ryan Hall's actually hit it in MMA where they were like backstep and force you to do a forward roll.
Yeah.
But the guy's neck, instead of facing away, was facing in.
Oh, so you just
And it's completely snapped his neck. He was quadriplegic for a while.
just goes limp on that.
And they sued Sinistro's insurance trying to say that it was like negligent. And the guy got a $46 million payout. Henna Grace even came in as expert witness to say that it was like a dangerous move. And I just see that and I think about all the horrible things I try to do, or I've encouraged people to do to each other.
I mean, it's one of those things. You step into the gym and really anything can sort of happen. Hey.
Yeah. Most of the time you injure yourself. Hey, I remember they said this guy was a novice, but he had wrestling experience. So there's like video of him in a white belt tournament hitting a full back arch suplex on a dude, like almost crippling this dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously it's a horrible thing to happen, but yeah, it's funny. It's all the what is like a novice grappler? You know, like if you've wrestled, I feel like that's significant experience, even if it's not in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, of course. You think you wouldn't go in there and try and spike someone in the head. But
Yeah, it's even if you watch the video, it's like it's so hard to say that he's like gone trying to do that. I mean, like from a striking perspective, what would be your variation of say like of a Boston Crab or like a Walls of Jericho? To have you ever done?
Well,
Like, would you say is it a?
maybe a Stone Cold Stunner.
But is it like a? I mean, a body shot's or a body shot. Like, what's the most demoralizing thing you reckon you've ever done to someone in the sparring room?
I don't know. I haven't really done. Yeah, a body shot is obviously demoralising because it kicks in after the fact and then go down. I think the craziest move people can do is like just a spinning elbow, like a fast spinning elbow. It can be pretty dangerous in a gym.
What's the worst thing you've done to your brother in training? How heated have you guys got, especially growing up?
Growing up, we used to get heated a lot. You know, it was like we would spend a lot of time like doing WWE wrestling, and then pretty much every day, and then after like every day, it would turn into a fight at the end. You know, so it started off wrestling, and then we'd end up just punching on, and then on the other side of the house until tomorrow. So we spent a lot of time doing that.
That's what happened with me. I grew up with an older brother, Adam Jones.
Yeah.
You know him quite well. And we would, when we first started jiu-jitsu, our original coach wouldn't let us roll together because it would just like someone would do something slightly too aggressively and it would just turn into a death match every time.
Yeah, we got to a point where, I don't know, we became good training partners after a while, but obviously at some point, like, it escalates and then it just eventually...
How hard do you guys still go? Like, you still... But
I
you
think
keep a
now
lid
we
on
look,
it,
yeah,
right,
I think
obviously.
now we sort of look after each other because we know majority of the sparring we do is in like MMA, like smaller gloves. So yeah, and obviously it's important to like be able to land hard shots. But I think like training, if you can be more precise when it comes to the fight, and you can put that extra little sting on. I think that's important. So I think it's important to like land your shot rather than actually trying to hurt people. In my opinion.
Do you think that's been a big help for your career, having your brother?
Yeah, I think it's been probably one of the biggest helps, you know. Just having someone that similar size, similar competitive spirit and loves the sport as much as me, like.
And he's older, right?
He's older.
So you grew up, like it was the same with my
Chasing
brother.
him.
Like he's more physically developed. So you're holding yourself to like a higher standard to try and beat up your fucking...
Yeah, always on the chase, you know, trying to better him. But yeah, big help for sure.
And then what about your relationship with Ben? Like, you've been with him since pretty much the start.
Another like big, those two relationships are big. Yeah, we came in probably like 16 years old to Ben. Me, Josh did a private lesson with Ben. It was like a free introduction lesson, and I think we just clicked. Like we're pretty competitive, me and Josh, and Ben's got like a competitive, aggressive spirit. So we just clicked, and he always told us that, yeah, if you keep working hard, you'll be able to sort of get to where we want to get to. So we just trusted him and stuck with his belief.
So you started at 16 years old?
Yeah, that was the first day we walked into the MMA gym, sort of had proper training. jiu-jitsu. We sort of just dived into as many classes as we could, like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, there's Muay Thai and boxing.
And how old are you now?
26.
26, so 10 years of training. Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. 10 years of training, pretty consistently.
And I wanted to ask you, because I remember I only became aware of you because I just was randomly watching the Contender series. And I remember, obviously, striking was crazy. I don't know what the fuck I'm watching, but the turtle reversal you hit in that.
Yeah.
Where did you develop those sort of movements? Because it's pretty unorthodox.
Pretty unorthodox. Just watching some different, honestly, like a lot of videos, like different stuff, and just having the confidence to try stuff, even in training and like stuff that some people might say doesn't work, but I mean, if it gets you back to your feet, then it did actually work.
Yeah, it worked perfect.
Yeah, so I did like just some different. I watched a couple of like Ben Askren had some YouTube videos of like a YouTube channel of different stuff. So I watched different stuff and just tried to incorporate it.
Yeah, Ben's awesome. He's got a ton of stuff, like it's the funk wrestling and stuff, and it looks crazy, but it's actually like a lot of simple stuff to work with, eh? Like it's not too outrageous.
Yeah, when you actually look at it, it seems real basic, and it does work, especially if you actually practice it and figure out where the right time to use it.
Yeah, he hit it on you the other day, right?
Yeah, I mean, because we were watching it, was it the night before? We went through like down a rabbit hole watching all of your older fights. And then, I remember the next day after watching the Angelusa fight, when we were grappling, the exact same movement, and I was like, man, it was like deja vu. It was just interesting watching. We watched the Darcy Vendy fight. Obviously, I know the initial Alden fight, but even just looking at your progression from, say, Darcy through the way to Dean, where you somewhat get startled, and just seeing how you've changed as a fighter. It's pretty cool to watch. Like, I've known you for quite a while, but to actually watch it consecutively with Craig and watch him break it down, it's cool to see those crazy changes, eh?
Yeah, it's cool, like progression, I guess. Yeah, I've just been training consistently, so, I mean, if it wasn't getting better, I'd have to probably give it up, but I felt like I've been getting better. And
did you ever have times where you're like, I need to have a break? Like, after going 0-2, did you have a time where I need to step back and take a break? Or was it always like, no, just bang, 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 bang?
Yeah, it was a little bit. There was a little bit of times where I thought, like I might just take a break. But Ben was pretty on to me. He sort of just kept me focused and sort of would say, all right, you've got to fight in a few weeks, like in, say, 8 weeks. And then he'd talk me into it, and then I was just committed to it sort of thing. So, but yeah, I always loved training. So, I love competing as well. So I just stuck to it,
How old were you when your first two, like for the people that don't know, you went 0-2 and now you're on what win streak now?
14.
14. That's fucking crazy. But how old were you when you were 0-2?
I think I had my first fight when I was 18, professional fight, 18 or 19, and then probably had 2 fights before the time I was 20.
Yeah.
And 19, 20, just sort of stuck at it. I was pretty new in the game. Like I was pretty fresh. Didn't really know my style either. I think a big part of it is like trying to find what works for you and what's your style. So just trying to find that and still trying to find it.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, in terms of your training, how do you balance it out? Because like obviously for most people at home, they watch it and they probably imagine predominantly a lot of striking training. But how do you split up like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, wall work?
To be honest, we've got a pretty awesome team at Scrappy, and we train for the last 2 years. We've been consistently had like a professional class at like 10 a.m. or like a fighters class, and that's, to be honest, that's probably 75 to 80% of that is more grappling.
Yep.
It is very much MMA, so like all the grappling we're doing, majority of the time involves striking, but yeah, majority of it's grappling. Because I think in striking, it's a lot more like you can just flow and be, like for me anyway, I can flow and just sort of, I think that you can, it's more in striking, I feel you're by yourself sort of thing, like you're not always connected with someone, so you can do a lot of that practice just sort of by yourself, shadow boxing, blasting your feet, but then grappling, I feel like you need to have partners. Majority of the days, 80% of it's strong grappling.
And like in terms of what you said, obviously with striking, so it's MMA focused, right? So that's where you use a lot of those turtle reversals, like things and stuff.
So yeah, just majority of the time is like if I'm on my back trying to get up, or like on top trying to consolidate position. But I think there's a lot of things, like creating the scramble, especially if I'm in someone's holding me, I'm trying to create a scramble and then create space.
Yeah, which I think is cool because it was a big adjustment because when I first started training with Volkanovski and stuff, I had to really rethink how I would approach grappling, especially train with MMA guys, because if you get certain jiu-jitsu guys in, they'll just roll with you like it's a jiu-jitsu match and use jiu-jitsu techniques, and it's a complete waste of time almost, you know? Like jiu-jitsu guys are pretty good for maybe some subs and sub defense if they've actually put some thought into that. But yeah, to change the style up, to make it work for MMA, is like you just have to really close the distance. I remember when I first started training that way, I was like, fuck, I've been training for over 10 years. I can't even hold a fucking MMA fighter down. Yeah. Because I've never trained with people that actually tried to get up. So it's like a big adjustment period, eh?
Yeah, a lot of you find like jiu-jitsu competitors are happy just being on the back, like having space between you, but realistically in a fight, that position, someone's going to be punching the shit out of you.
For sure, yeah. That's why I try to, like, whenever I train with MMA guys, at least to start a roll, like at least concede the distance. So at least we're starting attached. Because any sort of open guard scenario is kind of,
It's kind of, that's I was just trying to engage in some sort of position, whether it's on the bottom or top, rather than having that awkward, like, intermediary thing that isn't really there in a MMA fight.
Yeah, for sure. Probably your brother, main training partner for the grappling and stuff?
Yeah, big time. We've got cool guys at the gym. Like when Jack Becker and Rod Costa came to the gym 2 years ago, sort of started like a team, and they've helped me a lot. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that come through in and out of the gym that I've learned stuff from, and there's always guys down there and just trying to learn stuff and then practice it. And
it was interesting rolling with you and your brother. I felt like your brother, you had a very safe, controlled, like, create scrambles in a safe way. You're very hard to get attachments to, whereas your brother, I felt like a bit more wild on the mats, you know, a bit more diving on shit, like I wouldn't say a high-risk style, but he uses his length well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely, even his fights, he's a lot more aggressive, you know, than me, believe it or not, so... He definitely a big part of where I'm at.
I wanted to ask you, because when I roll with your brother, I noticed one thing in particular, and it was a strong odor of weed. And I was like, reminds me of a lot of gyms I trained at.
It's pretty, I think it can help with some people, you know, medicinal stuff.
I mean, I used to do it, especially back as a purple belt and stuff. I remember I bought the Eddie Bravo Master and the Rubber Guard book, and just started smoking weed and rolling all the time. And I would struggle to smoke and do the technique portion of the class. Yeah. I'd find myself just smoking up and just banging it out in the rounds, but like almost at a more controlled pace.
Yeah, I think definitely when you're under the influence, you're better off just free-flowing on your own rather than trying to listen to someone and then remembering what they actually told you. So I think it can help in martial arts with just like being a bit more relaxed, not being so tense, and trying new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. Obviously, it's hard to be. I mean, unless you eat a strong edible, you're having a panic attack or something. You generally are got to be much more relaxed rolling.
For sure.
But
otherwise,
tons of guys do it. A lot of people don't even talk about it, like not just in jiu-jitsu, but tons of MMA fighters like train high all the time.
I think so. I think it's like, to be honest, it's like a creative thing, you know. Like most people a lot of people in the creative spaces probably indulge.
Yeah. I mean, and it changes the way you roll, I think, because it's like you're not as competitive in a negative way. You know what I mean? You're more, like you said, more open to try new things and stuff. Like the Wolves
Jericho. Wolves Jericho at least sounds better. Right?
Yeah. Boston Crab, yeah. I got to work out where that came from, that name. I feel like it's got to be a backstory to it.
I don't think you need to find out. Yeah,
that's funny, yeah. Fuck. So before first round finishes, what was it like, the UFC debut? Because I remember I was like, oh, fuck, they're giving him a tough Russian guy, straight up. I always feel like...
Brazilian.
Oh, Brazilian was
Yeah,
first.
Pete Rodriguez, right?
Wally Alves, meant to be Wally Alves.
Second one was the Russian guy that put in the thumbs up. Yeah. I always feel like sometimes they give a guy, a Russian guy, they're trying to end that streak, give him a hard beginning to the career.
It was, to be honest, Ramazan wasn't, he was pretty slow, to be honest. Like from the outside perspective, he was good at just slowing the fight down. So I thought, try and just just get after him from the get-go, and ended up getting caught in a strong das.
Yeah, because you went for your reversal. Basically, it worked, and then he caught a wrist and just hung on, right?
Yeah.
It was so close to you just being on top out of that scramble.
It was so close. He just had that wrist and I was sort of just stuck there.
And the MMA glove makes that a bit tougher sometimes to strip
if it
grips,
wasn't, I could probably slither it out, but then had the wrist and then turned to face him. He just was fast on that choke.
Because he's got a few finishes with that choke in the UFC, right? That's like one of his...
I think so. It's definitely something.
Things.
Yeah, we practiced it, the defense of that a lot. So it is something he was good at. But I think he just wasn't in the... He was sort of waiting for me to roll, and I didn't roll, and then I was able to break the hands. And I could tell he was tired. He got up and he started shaking.
It was pretty quick after the finish. Like once you disengaged and stood up, we like, oh, now I can see when he started. Because when we watched it, you can visibly see him shaking.
Well, yeah, I was sort of just honestly the game plan was just try and go after him and get in scrambles and just stay safe. So yeah, I was just looking to make another scramble really. Yeah. But I was lucky enough to land the shot and he went down.
Because that lead it was a lead hook, right, that stopped him.
Yeah.
Because you've used that. I mean, pretty much. I think was it both Glenn Pettigrew fights or the second one where you hit him with the same thing 2 fights, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
It's that lead, and that lead.
It's just such a small glove, and if you don't have to land it too hard. If you hit the liver, it's a pretty bad feeling. Like it takes a second and then it kicks in.
And is that something you've trained consistently? That shot?
Yeah, definitely.
Because the Danny Roberts was the other arm and more of a glancing.
Yeah, that one
right?
I sort of ducked under a hook and it glanced straight across his tummy, but it hit the sort of the soft part as well. And I heard him, so I thought it must have. But yeah, I think someone was saying to me 20% of MMA fighters hit the body. 20% of strikes in MMA fights go to the body, which is
pretty low.
Low.
Yeah.
You think it's such a big target.
And have you found it, I mean, success-wise, striking from obviously the scene here to now a world stage, do you find that there's not many people utilising that style?
I think so. I think obviously grappling is a big part of the game, and I think for a long time, if people have fallen back onto the grappling, but I think if you can stifle the grappling, I think for me personally, I think there's big holes in the striking. Like Leon Edwards has done really well holding people off with the grappling and then utilising strong.
I mean, another thing that I also noticed in terms of that lead rip was one that I thought was a big part of your game. The second thing, obviously, being there for the Danny Roberts fight, watching the demeanour of your opposite fighter, change when you say staunchly no glove touch. Is that something that you've actively thought about to go against them, or is it more just
not really? I sort of just I don't really want to touch. I feel like I'm there to fight, so I just don't want any awkward interaction. It's one of those things you go out there you're meant to protect yourself at all times, and then there's a split second where you're just sort of in this weird state, which doesn't really make sense to me. My last fight against Randy, I was sort of, as I ended, I tried to tell him no touch, glove touch, and he didn't respond, so I just assumed he didn't want to touch gloves. And then after the fight, he told me, he said, you shouldn't ask to touch people's gloves. And I was like, you completely missed what I was trying to do. So he was trying to say that, it's bad to touch gloves. So obviously he thought a similar thing.
I think it's cool, visually. I mean, you can touch before when the ref stares you down, but I think it's cool when they just go at it straight away.
Yeah, I think so. It's a fight. I don't think. Yeah,
it just makes you look way more staunch too. I think from a marketing perspective, if you're a fight fan like myself, the whole Diaz brother thing is no way, we're fighting straight away. So it gives that angle, because most guys are super it's a last round of a fight, sometimes they'll hug, and then it's like, oh, it's a bit
weird, yeah. And sometimes you see, mid-fight they hug. It's just like it's like, hang on, what are we doing here? Like, what is this? I feel like it's a fight, you know.
What's up, nerds and virgins? It's your favorite silver medalist here. I'm here to break down for mybookie.ag UFC 288. We have Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. My pick is going to be Aljamain Sterling. Henry Cejudo always runs into me drunk and calls me triple silver. That's my pick for this fight. In the co-main, we have Beneil Dariush versus Charles Oliveira. Charles has the most submissions in UFC history, but Dariush is a significantly better grappler. If it goes to the ground, Dariush is going to get the submission. If you use the promo code BTEAM, you will get a nice little bonus. If you want a sports book that gives you the most for your money, bet on next weekend's UFC 288 with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with mybookie.ag. I'm getting hard. I remember that Mayweather fight where the guy headbutted him. And then he tried to apologize 3 times, so Mayweather just knocked him out.
But it came to a point where, like, how many times do we need to embrace?
Especially after throwing a head back.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was quite fair.
Yeah, third time, right? Yeah. That's funny. Floyd loves playing the villain, though. Would you you know how you see a lot of MMA fighters going into boxing, pure boxing? Would you ever do anything like that?
I'd be into it. Yeah, I like competing, so it'd be cool one day. But obviously I got goals in MMA, you know, and you see how MMA goes. I think boxing is like I think MMA is cool. Like, you feel like going in there with no shoes, like very little compared to going in those shoes and big gloves. I like the freedom of MMA a bit more.
So you're saying bare knuckle would be?
I would I think down the track I'd probably have more chance going bare knuckle, just for the crazy experience, you know. I wouldn't want to get hit.
Did you do any grappling tournaments coming up?
I've done it, a little bit, just the local ones, nothing too big, but a few local ones in the gi and without the gi. I think that helped, just competition, like. So we could do, obviously, like, when you're competing, like, everything's completely different. Like, time seems to go a bit slower. So any experience in that zone is important.
Did you do, like, because obviously you have good wrestling. Did you ever compete in wrestling events?
I did a little bit of wrestling. Like, I did quite a bit of wrestling. We had a guy at the gym, like a South African guy, Petrus Palm. He came down and used to wrestle a lot with him. He was fully wrestling. So it was a bit different, but used to wrestle a bit with him, and there was a lot that you can learn from that. And I went over and I did the funny, like, I was in the full wrestling outfit.
Oh, yeah?
Which is cool. I did 2 competitions. Went over to, did like a cool competition in Queensland. It was cool. It was like good fun, just that competitive spirit, you know.
It's funny, I feel like, obviously, Americans that wrestle, they grow up wearing the singlet, so it's not weird to them. But
it's completely normal, eh?
Yeah, but like when I put it on, I'm like thinking, like, and I put on I wear some pretty weird outfits, you know. So I was like, this is interesting. It's an interesting look.
It feels alright, like, without the shoes, but then when you put the shoes on, it feels 10 times worse.
And the shoes change everything. Hey, like, I see so many MMA and jiu-jitsu guys that will do a lot of wrestling in the shoes, and I always find like it does change the way you wrestle. You know, it's so much easier to hang on to ankles.
Big time, yeah. And I reckon, like, it takes away a good, like, 25% of your explosiveness. Not having that, like, perfect, like, when you're shooting a double leg, not having that perfect step.
I feel like a lot as well, like, when I train in shoes, and I obviously do very little of it, but I feel like I'm more prone to a knee injury, like moving myself in a strange way out of a single leg, and they got that extra grip.
Yeah, it's like your foot won't move once it's planted.
Yeah, like I definitely feel much more dangerous, like much more at risk. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shoes on.
For sure.
So you do mostly MMA based grappling. So if you guys are doing an MMA based grappling class, how would the positions start to focus on the grappling side?
Obviously, a lot of it is cage stuff. So we do it one day where it's like today, it's just full positions where we do live rounds where you attack, defend, like say maybe a turtle up against the cage or seated up against the cage, and just pretty much starting from like a full like seated against the cage and then going from there, trying to make the scramble and then getting up or trying to stay strong on top and land strikes.
So already starting, it's sort of like other advantage.
Yeah, we do have days where we do striking into takedowns as well, which is obviously important. But yeah, a lot of it is starting in bad sort of positions and then trying to work our way out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm doing the wall wrestling stuff. I'm not obviously doing it really with gloves with Volks or anything, but I do find it's very different wrestling against the wall than in open space. I feel like obviously when you get taken down, it can be very difficult to get up. I'm more used to like sort of creating scrambles in open space. So I find myself on bottom against the cage at a disadvantage. But I love the idea of wrestling against the cage. I feel like it's much lower impact on the body. Obviously, you don't get really sprawled on when you take a shot against the cage.
You got a whole barrier there to like balance on, you know. So there is times where you can slow it down. It's not as wild, and I guess it takes away a whole side, and you're cramped up.
I just like not being sprawled on. I'm like, all right, I can just recklessly shoot.
Yeah, there's no
walls
chance of
behind
it.
it.
Exactly.
Have you done much fence work?
Not particularly. I mean, when I have, I've done it with guys who are high level, and it's just like I find, for me, the cage, I hate the cage. Wall, I much rather enjoy because my little frail T-shirt selling hands for all the amateurs at home. Like, I find the wall so much better. The cage, I struggle with big time.
Yeah, the cage hurts, eh?
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like when we started doing it, like, my back was always like, it had big bruises. But even now, I still do. I feel like I do the same amount of cage work, but I don't really get the bruising. So I don't know if it's your body. Like, does it actually? Could it get?
Get used to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or is it technique? I don't know.
But it's a way bigger thing in the UFC now. Obviously, like you used to get guys who would just pin guys against the cage, but now, I mean, you would be able to answer this probably the best. It's like the whole thing of sucking guys off the cage, and like what you would have done with Volk and Islam in preparation, I'd assume. It's like it's a massive part of the UFC now. Like it never used to be sort of acknowledged as much of a thing, but the wall wrestling is huge, right?
Yeah, obviously now, like guys like Khabib and Usman, like basically experts in an area where previously guys weren't really that knowledgeable, right?
Well, I feel like even now there's not. You don't see a majority of the grappling in MMA would be, I think, close to, if not on the cage. But I can't recall, I could be wrong, but there's not a whole lot of open play grappling, really.
Not too risky, right? Costs too much energy.
Yeah.
But it's weird for an area where there's obviously so much of the wrestling takes place. What I find is interesting is there's really only a handful of guys that look really technical and really effective against the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's a thing where only people are now really starting to work on it, and like there has been guys that are ahead of it in the past, but yeah, it seems to be the big part of the grappling now.
What do you think from a striking standpoint? Like, would you put calf kicks in the same sort of realm where that was like a big thing for?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It was. Yeah, that's the.
That was a
big one.
Coming out of the blue, you were getting stoppages, and then obviously there's been a few leg breaks. Do you think that's something that, like, is that something you actively train for, or is it more?
I definitely think it is something now that you need to, because I think it's pretty easy to just kick someone in the calf. Like it's probably one of the safest weapons, and it can be so damaging. So I think you have to have a solid answer for it. Especially for myself, like someone with more of a boxing style, I'd say it's going to be what I think my opponents will be trying to get on me. Lucky enough, I haven't found one to detriment my movement at this stage. But it might come, so I've got to be prepared to counter it.
How much MMA do you watch, right? So obviously like we're talking about little things here, like how the calf kick became big. How much MMA do you watch just for entertainment? And then how much do you watch really you're studying, trying to see what new things guys are doing that perhaps you haven't seen before?
Majority of new fights I just watch for entertainment because I'm a fan. So when the fights are on, I'll just tune in as a fan, and then if there was something interesting that I thought I'd then go back. But yeah, I spent a fair bit of time watching old fights, different things. I think there's a lot of there's obviously so many things you can do in MMA. So there's so many different techniques that I might not be good at, but someone's good at, and you can just learn from watching people. So it's been a big part of my improvement has been just from studying fights.
And when you game plan for an upcoming opponent, obviously you're doing that with your coaching staff as well.
Yeah.
Do you guys watch it in isolation? Do you guys watch your opponent's fights together? Because I know some guys really don't want to watch their opponent's fights. They like to leave it up to the coaches and stuff.
No, I watch it. No, I don't go too heavily in depth. I don't necessarily watch it with my coach, where he will watch it and sort of just rattle off points, and then I'll watch it, and then I'll sort of say my thoughts, and then we can come together and sort of think of a game plan as such, like things that we think will work and things that might not be as effective. But yeah, I'd try. Yeah, probably just watch it. Probably watch my opponent's fights the last maybe two of each of their last like 4 or 5 fights, just twice. Just try and pick up on things that I think is going to be effective and things that they're obviously good at the time.
And how obvious are certain, like, because obviously I watch grappling, I study a ton of grappling, and sometimes you can just see a guy make blatant errors. And like in terms of striking, even at the UFC level, how often do you watch an opponent and you're like, oh wow, it's pretty, like, leaves a lot of open?
To be honest, I've never really seen anything where I've thought this is an opening that I'll definitely be able to exploit, but it's more just look at certain weapons, or even just certain what stance I think would be more effective on the opponent, and then just go off field in the fight. But yeah, there's never been anything I've seen that I thought I need to do this exact technique and it'll get him.
What's made you call out Shavkat multiple times?
I think he's just probably one of the he's young and he's coming up, so I thought it makes sense. I don't feel like I'm coming up as well. So
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the guys in the top 5 don't want to fight each other. Like a lot of them seem to be calling for. A lot of them just want the title shot, but they don't actually want to fight each other. So I feel like I think I'll definitely fight Shavkat one day, and I think now's the time. I think I can beat him.
What do you think of the Shavkat Jeff Neal fight?
It was a cool fight. It was a crazy fight. I think Shavkat's pretty hittable, to be honest. I think like Jeff Neal didn't make weight. I think he must have had something not right. He was still able to land hard shots and looked pretty good against him. I don't think he's I think that's sort of like before that he had sort of like an unbeatable sort of mystique about him, but I think that's sort of gone now. Now he's in there and people are going to give him a good fight now. And I'm hoping soon I can fight him. Hopefully after this fight.
What's Shavkat ranked? Is he top 5?
6 or 7, maybe? Or is it top 5 now? I don't know.
I don't know. It's definitely
He's high.
around there, 5 in that mid top 10 range.
It's so hard to convince the ultra famous, higher-end guys of the division to take on guys like you, know, like on a tear, obviously less of a following at this stage of your career.
Yeah, it is hard.
How does the UFC convince them to do, like...
I don't know. They've been pretty good, though. A lot of them have said that people don't want to fight you, and it's obviously not like a scared thing. I think everyone in the UFC is obviously down to fight, but yeah, it's just like they all try and pick the smart fights.
Yeah, it's
which is always someone
of resistance, right?
It's always someone in front of you as well.
That's what I try to do in grappling. I think, who's the worst opponent I could get with the largest social media
It makes more sense. Yeah, it makes a whole lot more sense.
Well, it's like the Perth fight. What was it? 4 or 5 dudes said no?
Yeah, there was a lot. I don't know if it was the travel as well, or like you don't know.
But why, if you think about it from an outside standpoint, why would you come 24 hours across the globe to fight one of Australia's brightest stars in his hometown?
And they got killed on taxes, the international
Yes, it's like, to me, looking from an outsider, I was like, well, I wouldn't say yes. Why would he? Yeah, but, I mean, it was good that you eventually got someone, but it's a very hard trip to make, eh?
It's a hard one, yeah. Because obviously, everyone wants to fight someone in front of them, so it's to say, do you want to fight someone behind you? They're sort of thinking.
And how was that walking out? Obviously, I was there, Craig was there, and to see that walkout, it was like this guy's trajectory is superstardom. Like,
It was
how
insane.
did that affect you at all, or was it just business as usual?
It was business as usual, you know. I feel like anybody from Perth could have walked out and the crowd would have gone absolutely fucking nuts. So. But it was business as usual, you know. Like, I knew, I had to go in there and I feel like I was better than Randy and I could land big shots. I just tried to stay as calm as possible and then get after him.
Because it was probably about 2.5, 3 minutes in that you tagged him. Like, there was a bit of sort of feeling out the distance, right? And then it was pretty much the first big shot that landed that wobbled him out.
The main shot that I committed to it landed, and it like completely wobbled him, like knocked him off. And I thought that's definitely at that point I could see my face plant. I was like, that's it.
I mean, I was very happy. I had my $5 on submission at $17, so I was thought myself I was quite the armchair expert after that. Did you ever think, was that ever in the plan, like the ground, obviously, or was it always just get him where you can?
Nah, it was just get him where I can. And like, when someone's turtled and you can tell they're a bit wobbled, they're just giving you the back. It's pretty hard not to jump on that.
When a guy goes down like that, how often do you get the feeling, I think he's done? Are you ever have you ever been wrong on that? Or you really get a sense of how hard they hit the ground?
No, I've definitely been wrong on that before. Because it's hard to, I can't think of a time where, there is sometimes though, I think like body shots is one thing you can know for sure. Because it's really soft spot and you can almost feel it grunt. And then like when they fall over, you know that it's like a debut. I felt that so many times. So I know
for extended period, right? How long does that usually last?
I reckon it's like excruciating for probably like maybe like 5 to 10 seconds, and then it's like you've probably got like 20 seconds after that where it's sort of doable, and then it's probably passes. But it's like 5 to 10 seconds. There's not much you're thinking except what the fuck just happened to me.
Because the Danny Roberts fight, you put him down once and then finished him on the second time, right?
Yeah, I put him down early in the fight once. That was one. I thought I hit him hard, and then he was able to stay there. But definitely, that start of that fight, I dropped him, and I thought that could have been it.
Which of you guys' opponents have you hit the hardest? And been like, how the fuck is this guy eating this?
Angelusa. I hit him.
That was
hard.
crazy.
Yeah, I hit him hard a few times. I don't know if he just had such big traps. I think they held his head like perfectly straight. Like, I'd hit him and his head would just move a tiny bit. I think he's the hardest guy I've hit multiple times.
Were you consciously aware during it? Like you connected and you're like, oh, this guy can take.
After the first 2 rounds, I thought, fuck, this guy is going to take some shots. So I started trying to hit him in the body, and it was just nothing, hey.
Because that's the first time and the only time you've been to decision, right?
Yeah, the only time we go to decision.
Because I remember we watched it 2 nights ago, and it's like the first 2 rounds, Bisping's all on your side, and then the first half of the third round, it's like he's like, oh, he looks like he's slowing down. As he says that, it's like you pick the pace up again. It's like you've heard him and then come back.
Yeah.
Did you feel anything in the fight that made you slow and then put gear back on even harder?
Not really. It was more just probably just like a mental thing, to be honest. I was sort of thinking like, third round I should be tired, and then it was just like, after a while I was like, fuck, I'm actually not that tired.
Yeah.
Like, snap out of it. Got 3 minutes in the tank.
Training wise, do you put anything different in place when it gets to those 5 rounders, which hopefully are in the future pretty soon? Is that something you're going to actively look to change, or everyone at Scrap is pretty fit, right?
Fit, yeah. We do a lot of rounds, you know, so I think it's just, I think when it comes down to that sort of length, the most important thing is probably just focus, you know. Try and just stay focused on a task for 25 minutes for can be hard for, I feel like, most people. So that's probably, I think the fitness will carry you through, but if you can just stay focused on a task for that amount of time, then that's a big part of it. So obviously we'd have to do some sort of training, but yeah, just trying to stay focused.
What's your strength and conditioning program like?
To be honest, majority of I do one Saturday morning, which is like a CrossFit sort of strength, but that's really the only strength and conditioning I do. Majority of it is like skill based, like rounds, sparring, that sort of thing. I think is where like you can kill two birds with one stone by like doing conditioning while doing skill work. I think rather than just going and running when you could be getting better at skills.
Yeah, because I think like efficient technique is definitely gonna not drain the gas tank like super athletic guys that are exploding into things.
And just having more techniques in the book, and like some techniques will work with some people and some won't work with others. So like if you only know a certain few techniques but you're really fit but those techniques aren't working, like you're gonna get tired eventually. Yeah. But having more techniques in the book when you're tired are probably, I think, is probably more beneficial.
Yeah, I noticed that like in terms of how you create scrambles on the ground, it's pretty energy efficient, and I feel like a lot of people are going to overcommit to try to keep you down and actually probably cost them more energy than you trying to climb back to your feet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, normally it is, I guess the person, I think majority of the time the person that's more offensively is going to be using more energy, I believe.
Nothing sucks worse than getting a clean takedown and the guy bounces straight back up.
Yeah, that's demoralizing. And that might be the thing that just some people quit at that point and think, all right, this is over. But
for me, I quit if I've got a deep submission on a guy and I think it's done and he gets out. I'm like, oh, I gave it a good shot. I've had that with heel hooks before. I put a guy on a heel hook and his legs started to break and I haven't like fully broken it, and then he's just slipped out and I've been like, I might not get that again, eh?
Yeah, that can be the turning point in like, the mental battle.
That's actually what happened with my match with Jack Becker, eh?
Really?
So me and Jack had a match. Like 2015, 16 or something. I get a leg entry on him, put him in a heel hook. His knee starts to make crazy noises. And like, I didn't let go of the submission, but I was definitely like, what the? It's like, I was like, this is not a crazy important match. This cunt needs making some noises. And then he slipped down, and I was like, well, fuck. And then he ended up north-south choking me, but I was like, God damn it, I should have fucking torn this leg off. So hard, eh? He's a tough bastard, Jack.
How long ago was that?
Ooh, 2016.
Yeah, wow. How long have you been competing?
Since 2009 was the first time I competed.
Jeez, long time.
Ages, too long. I feel broken down, eh?
What was when was the thing when did you make your first big step to go internationally? Like if you look at the jiu-jitsu world right now from an outsider's perspective, you're one of the biggest names off the mat, which I think is massively important, as well as on the mat. So what's that trajectory? How have you got to that position of being so big on and off the mat?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I think I just kept the goals short. You know what I mean? Like, try to be the best in the gym, best in the state, best in the country, and kept following that path. Obviously, you have setbacks like what Jack Becker did to me, the bastard. But I won Nogi Worlds in like 2015. That was the first big one. I qualified for ADCC in 2014, competed in 2015, just got massacred. I had no business there. Obviously, Asian trials. It would be like sending an Aussie to the Olympic Games of wrestling. You know what I mean? It would be like, he could be good, but he's going to get mangled, eh? And then I qualified again 2016, and then I faced Leandro Loa ADCC 2017. And that was a good style matchup because he was a gi guy, and at the time I don't think was working a ton of leg locks. So I put him in a leg lock. But he's a Brazilian guy that at the time, he always used to say, I will never tap to a leg lock. I've seen his knee pop, his ankles pop. So I put him in a heel hook, and he turned the wrong way and just tore his knee super bad out of place. And then we went out of bounds. And I turned around, so I didn't know how hurt he was. And as he was walking back, he's like stretching his leg, trying to get some balance back. And that sort of disrupted his balance a bit. So I was able to sweep him, take his back. And then I choked another Brazilian guy in the second round. That was where the trajectory went pretty big. So 2017. Up until 2017, probably living off $100 a week. All I was eating was fucking frozen vegetables and eggs. Maybe some Nutella if I got a couple of fights that week. But then after that, I was able to make some money. Because obviously, tough to make money in MMA coming up.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, even like, you could be a black belt world champion and make no money.
Yeah.
Luckily, if things go well for you in the UFC, obviously you start, especially getting bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, the bonuses are a big help.
Because what you've got 4 bonuses.
3
3.
Yeah.
Which one didn't get the bonus?
Pete Rodriguez.
I mean, it was still a bit of a drubbing.
Yeah. It was one of those ones. Like, I think it was probably just the level of competitor didn't do it for him.
Because he was only 4-0 at the time.
Yeah, first fight. It was really like a last.
I mean, how did you even study any? There wasn't much to really go off.
No,
right?
it wasn't much. It was just like 4 fights, 4 big punches.
Yeah, he did have big finishes.
Yeah, but there wasn't much to go off. It was just flown all that way, and
I mean, obviously, from a trajectory career-wise too, I think obviously Craig's a bit of a lunatic these days. You've got you're a complete different style of Aussie guy, but that works perfectly for you. So from my perspective, we obviously work together on some product together. Yeah. A biggest thing I've noticed from my fellow armchair international fans who have no clue about jiu-jitsu or MMA, they're like, oh, mate, you know that crazy Aussie with the nose.
the nose.
Like, it's almost like without you trying to do that, has that become a thing where, like I saw something where you said you only change it after you finish fighting? Is it for something with you where you're just like, you like it now, or?
No, I just sort of, I feel like if I get it fixed now, there's a high chance that it gets broken again.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost worked.
Your breathing's fine with it?
Yeah, it sort of hasn't really, I don't know, I guess you will never know until you get it fixed, and then I might think, fuck, I should have done
So what was it, the Darcy Vendy fight when you were bleeding? Did you feel it happen?
Just like a solid crunch, you know? I just felt it like crunch, and sort of just never did anything about it because it felt fine after.
When you looked in the mirror afterwards, were you like...
Yeah, I was like, I might go back to normal at the time. It just never did.
When will the Colby Covington heel turn come for you?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know about that. Maybe when I find Brazil, you know. Something crazy.
I mean, you've had a few one-liners where obviously the Danny Roberts thing where he was like, oh, you've only had, I don't want to do his accent, sorry, you've only had 2 fights, and then you just sort of like laughed and was like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
But like, I suppose,
will it energy, you know?
Will it change when you're at a presser and some dude's like, F you, F this, F that? Well, then do you think will we get the
yeah, maybe
the young?
But I know there's no chance of having a fight on the thing. So.
I mean, remember Kevin Lee and Chiesa though? Old
they did.
Yeah, Chiesa came charging over and Kevin Lee gave him one.
That was good.
Yeah,
that's not the only time you've ever seen someone fight. But yeah. I just like save the energy for the fight.
I mean, I suppose when you got 3 bonuses in a row, I think that's building your career well enough, right? Yeah,
obviously, if it was something I could say that would make me get more money, I'd definitely say it. But I don't know what that is at this point.
I mean, you've never said a name after a fight, right? You've never actually individually called out anyone. Hey, it's only like I know the Shavkat thing. I've seen I think 2 presses where you've asked for him. Yeah.
I reckon after this fight, I could probably.
You can ask for top 5, probably, to be honest, right?
Try and gun for it, yeah. But hopefully Shavkat's that one.
Yeah.
If he does, see what, like, everyone's schedule's different. Like, I might fight and then he might fight right then and then.
Outside of him, is there anyone else in the top 10 you'd want?
Honestly, anyone. Like, Vicente Luque would be a cool fight. Anyone, yeah. But hopefully I get through Brady and then fight someone in the top 5. But even, like, if no one wants to fight, I think, like, Kevin Holland, he's not, like, a top guy, but I think it'd be a cool fight.
That'd get some banter out of you for sure. Yeah.
That would be sick, watching him talk, and obviously and he's been in altercations, what it was, Masvidal, the last one, the Kamzat thing where he when they were rebooking, he was meant to kick someone backstage. That would be a cool one to...
Yeah, cool one. I was thinking if Brady wasn't in for it, I'd probably try and fight him.
Do you reckon that would alter your performance at all, or do you think growing up with your brother and going back and forth with him?
Like, I don't reckon having like anyone be aggressive to it wouldn't change much. I wouldn't think like it's a fight. So
I know the Randy presser, it looked like that was the first time I've ever seen you look like you want to smoke someone. Like it looks like he sort of shaped up a bit, and then you went from smiling and laughing to stern. Like I was like, oh wow, there's actually he wants to get him.
Yeah, I wanted to get him, you know, for sure. But it wasn't anything he said. It was just that
he's the one.
Yeah, he was the one. You know, he was the one I had to fight. So yeah, there's not much you could. I don't think there's much I could say that I'd want to try and beat anyone anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, Randy tried the nose joke, but that was it's not really a big.
yeah, I think it'll probably come up most of the time. So.
Holland's a crazy dude. I remember I ran into him at a UFC one time, and he's like, "Hey, I messaged you for a seminar," and I'm like, "What?" And I go and check my messages, and it was a message from like fucking 2 years ago. I was like, "This guy will start something with anybody."
Just for the yeah.
Yeah, I was like, bro, I didn't even see. I didn't even believe him. Hey, I was like, this guy just fucking with me. And then like afterwards, I went back and checked. I was like, yeah, it's a message from Kevin Holland. I was like, he just wants to go at all times.
Just a
Yeah.
fighter.
Some of the fighters are like that. I remember Keenan Cornelius telling me a story where he saw Nick Diaz in a club. And he's like, "Oh, Nick, big fan. Love to train with you sometime." And Nick thought that meant, "Let's
let's go."
He's like, "I meant just roll." And Nick's tried to like fight him on the spot.
Yeah, that seems yeah. Obviously, they just built up a wall, right? And they don't want anyone to come through.
With that, would you ever go internationally and train elsewhere, or go do camps anywhere, or is it
Yeah,
always?
I've always been open to it. Just like time. Yeah, just never have got around to doing it. But I've definitely, if I felt like there was a specific guy that I needed to go work with, I'd definitely do it. I'd down to come to B team one time.
Oh, sick, yeah.
Part of the team.
We sold you on the guns, eh?
As soon as you said 50 cal, I was like, wow.
Man, Texas has some crazy shit, right? In, where is it, San Antonio. You can go rent like full tanks and shoot missiles out of tanks. Just obnoxious behavior down there. There's another one I want to do. It's called heli bacon. Have you heard about this? So you can shoot 50 cows out of a helicopter at wild pigs.
Oh, that's that'd be an
Do they
experience.
explode?
I don't know. They're a pest. They're a problem down there. So you can just again take a rail gun to them. Mate. Yeah, you get a choice of like a standard like 50 cal or a proper like rail gun.
Wow.
That'd be just a wild
Helicopter.
time. What a
You go-
name.
Yeah.
Heli bacon.
I'll definitely do some heli bacon.
Yeah, that'd be a wild time, eh? Yeah. Yeah, definitely calm down, man. You were just in Bali, right? Would you ever train in like sort of like Thailand?
Yeah, I was actually I wanted to go before this, like my next fight, but just like timing now. But I might try. Like I've still got a bit of time before if this fight pulls through. So July 7th, July 8th. So probably, yeah, I think it'd definitely be beneficial. Just training with new people. So yeah.
Thailand's a wild spot. We just had the camp up there, and like some of the crazy behavior that was going on. Hey, I guess I bring it upon myself because of the image I put out.
Yeah.
But I just get the most degenerate human beings ever come for a jiu-jitsu camp. And like I made the video with the lady boys, but obviously I wasn't having sex with the lady boys. But I won't name names, but some of the guys did. I know one of the kids came into training one day and he was like, "Yeah, I got a hand job from a lady boy last night." And he's like, "But it's not gay." He's like, "I draw the line. I wouldn't have sex with her." Like a whole lot of people going through weird things. I feel like Thailand does that to people. I wouldn't want to be there too long. That might be me.
I've seen the very similar things firsthand where it's like guys go there and it's like, man, she wants me, bro. I'm like, he or she, that's what they that's how they earn their money, man. They're not there because you're a good looking brother.
You can't tell either, eh? Honestly, I would have no idea. It was interesting because we were trying to film some funny content for Street X, and like I had to go around and approach and hope that was a ladyboy, like, and then explain to them that we're gonna make a video with you. That's obviously a funny video.
I mean, imagine being that ladyboy. You'd be like, oh, what sort of rouse is happening here? This weird guy in a banana hammock, fucking Speedo, wants me to oil him up and put it on camera.
We paid them for their time, but they still wanted to like have sex with us. Eh? I was like, you don't have to do that. Obviously, my brother did. But very generous of him.
Hand him over, Craig.
We went up. There was this other one, other lady. I shouldn't say other one. This other lady boy by the gym. And again, they're super cool to hang out with. Like taking the piss, having a drink. Like you think it'd be a touchy subject or something, but they were down to have fun, more fun than us actually. But there was another lady boy by the gym that was like super jacked, just jacked, and I wanted to have an arm wrestling match with her, but she was not into it at all. Like, I was like,
one thing on her mind.
yeah, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna get
But I think it's like a different, like we've done pop-ups in Bangkok before, and there was one of the DJs was a ladyboy, and she was so about it.
it sounds bad.
Like,
That's one of the boys.
whereas when it comes back, people are like, oh my God, you're taking advantage and doing this. I'm like, well, it's her personal choice. She's living for it. She reckons it's sick. But then people here, I mean, I suppose our societies have a very different standpoint on those sort of issues.
That's the thing. Like, you know how you'll be here and one of your mates misses and want to hang out with the boys, and you're like, well, you're not really one of the boys. With the lady boys, they actually feel like one of the boys. They're a good time. They're like open to anything. Yeah, like they were fun to have a drink with.
Not too many drinks though.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. We did. I had a couple of drinks with them one night when we were scouting. We were like, we need a few beers to do this. We took a couple of Valiums too. I was like, I need to fucking be loose for this conversation. And I ended up getting sick after that night. I caught the fucking stomach bug. That totaled me. I don't know. That's the only bummer about being up there.
Yeah, it's a very different landscape to say here.
I was trying to get the content to him, and I'm like, bro, I'm fucking dying. I was like 2 days sleeping for 30 hours, The perks of traveling, But I pushed through, we got the Ladyboy content, and he spent a lot of time watching it.
Yeah, we've had no backlash at all. It's been very well accepted, to be honest.
Yeah, probably a good note to finish on,
Yeah, nice. Go and watch some little... watch something on my laptop, I reckon,
Finish the job, Yeah, thanks for doing it,
That was very good. Very good.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you for listening to the El Segundo podcast. Don't forget, fuck Craig Jones.